Good morning, everybody. Deep Thoughts by the Dashboard. It is 6:27 on Friday during Scream Week. As you can see, I am dressed like Snow White. The decision was made. And I just wanted to talk about today student conferencing. A lot of people always ask me about how do I get kids conference during class time, what kind of stuff goes into those conferences, how do I plan for them, how do I make it happen so that I could talk to every kid about their progress. And basically what I do is about 2 weeks in advance of having the actual conferences, I send out a Google form, and on the Google form it's very specific about the work that we did, where they have an opportunity to talk about the specific assignments we did, review the feedback that they've gotten so far, look at their pupil path, which is their online grading system, to see what standards we've addressed, and to also then have the opportunity to reflect on where they feel they are in that situation. And essentially what ends up happening is once they fill out the data, I set out appointments, and then with the appointments that I set up, I follow that schedule to the T. There are times on it, so I don't just use class time. I also use time before school, so the appointments will start today at 7:30 when kids are allowed to come into the building. And so I'll have 3 kids before first period, 10-minute conferences apiece. The conferences usually open with, "So how do you think you're doing in here?" Which I like to open the dialogue up in a very easy sort of conversational way that puts the students in charge of what we end up talking about, because I don't want to monopolize the conversation. They have a lot of work that they could choose from when they're talking to me, and most of the time they're not really used to a teacher saying to them after they go through things, so how do you feel you're doing? And then I have a chart on my wall that breaks down mastery, proficiency, and initial proficiency, which, based on what we've got going on inside of Pupil Path, they could line up the mastery with the E's I've provided, proficiency with the M's, and A's for initial proficiency. And then on the chart, it also has traditional grades A, B, and C, and they have to try to determine where they are in between each of those things. So the conversations usually talk about, what specifically they're doing well, what specifically they need help on. They could ask me questions, but really I'm just listening and then kind of norming my answers against what they're saying. And I have already reviewed their thoughts, and when I talk to them, I speak specifically about what they put in the sheets, the form, so they understand the necessity of the form, because what I don't really want to do is spend time going through everything. Since I have it all in writing and they've had the time to plan for this conference, it's not like I don't know for about 10 minutes when we sit together, which I think would be a very terrible waste of our time. So what's going to happen now is that at the end of each conference, they actually take the time to grade themselves, and I take the grade and I basically say to them, hey, this is what's going on in your progress report. It's only a progress report. It's not a report card. So, let's work toward a specific goal so that we could start moving you forward. And I think they kind of dig the conversation. Yesterday during lunch, while I was having a meeting with another student, she was really surprised to hear that back in the old days when I first started teaching, I was a very different teacher, that kids didn't have as much say in what was going on. And I think that she was surprised because we were sharing, just our ideas of growth. And I said to her, I get feedback from you guys, you get feedback from me, but I'm always working on improving my craft. And if you guys say to me, hey, Miss Axine, this really isn't working for us, I need to consider that this is really about you, not about me. So we really need to adjust appropriately for whomever is sitting in the space. And every single year I need to make sure I do that, and every single year I get better at doing it. Now, another challenge you might be saying is, so what do you do during, with the other 33 kids that are sitting in your classroom while you're having these conferences? Yesterday we did a networking activity, which I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to Periscope because it was actually really cool. They had all prepared in small groups sections of a modest proposal, and then I call it a networking activity. They get out of their seats, they have to interview other people in the room who were working with other groups to get the information that they didn't have in their groups. And then set up around the room, I had poster paper, and they had to actually jot down the things they learned for each one of the stations. And then when I finished the conferences for class, we did a wrap-up activity, and the kids were allowed to go around and take pictures of the chart paper, or actually copy down what they learned if they didn't get it in there so far. The kids were very cooperative. I was very proud of them. Today they're going to be working independently on the next major writing assignment that they have. So they're going to have in-class time to work on those assignments, which is essential to my not being in front of the room to be able to work with these students one-on-one. And that is always my goal, to give as many kids as possible my full attention, give them what they need, and try to remind the kids that while these students are sitting in front of me, they need to respect that I'm involved in this conference with another student, because when it's their turn, they don't really want to be interrupted either. And it works really nicely. If you have any questions about in-class conferencing or working with kids and providing feedback to help them grow as learners, please check out my blog, starsaxdean.com, or work in progress at Education Week Teacher. You also have the opportunity to see my new book, Teaching Kids to Self-Assess, and coming very, very, very soon, Hacking Assessment, which will really break down a lot of the processes that I go through in order to get rid of the grades that I have to deal with. Anyway, happy Halloween this weekend. Maybe I'll scope a little later from one or two of my conferences if students allow. And I hope everybody has a fantastic Friday.